Hi, everybody. We're going to get going. I know some folks are still having some issues with the Hoover link, but I think we have a good quorum of folks who have joined. So again, welcome to our Urban Shores, the annual conference of the New York, New Jersey Harbor and Estuary Program. My name is Rob Pirani. I'm the director of the Estuary Program, or HEP, as we like to call ourselves. HEP is a collaboration of partners working together to ensure that the benefits of the Clean Water Act, fishable and swimmable waters are realized by the people and wildlife of the estuary. From Sandy Hook to Soundview, from the Hudson River to the Rockaways, we work together to identify shared goals and objectives and address priorities identified in our action agenda. We're hosted at the Hudson River Foundation, and like the foundation, we do this work by bringing actionable data and scientific understanding to the management of the estuary. I want to extend a special welcome to the many HEP committee and work group members that are here today. Our work does not happen with the guidance and partnership of the dozen active committees and hundreds of individuals who are at the heart of our collaboration. And thank you for your service. Thank you for taking the time to be part of the collaboration, for reaching across both our geographic boundaries, our sector silos, in our own internal disciplines to take part in this collaborative effort. In particular, I want to recognize the work of the Restoration Work Group and their collective efforts to advance habitat enhancement in the estuary. Every few years, we focus our attention in this annual conference on the progress we have made in our restoration efforts. This work is guided by the Hudson-Raritan Estuary Comprehensive Restoration Plan, or CRIP, 12 target ecosystem characteristics that shape the estuary. The characteristics necessary to support thriving fish and wildlife populations and provide critical benefits to the people who live here in the New York, New Jersey region. As you will hear when we gather in Liberty State Park on Thursday, despite the pandemic and all that went with it, there's been considerable progress towards our CRIP goals over the past 3 years. For example, we've surpassed our goals for restoring our maritime forests, including 37 acres of forest that have been created or enhanced, in particular in Marine Park in Brooklyn. And thanks to the work of Billion Oyster Project, Baykeeper, Hudson River Park Trust, and my colleagues at the foundation, more acres of new oyster habitat have been added in the past 3 years than the previous decades combined. But there are also challenges. Particularly meeting our goals for restoring our shoreline and shallow water habitat requires stepping up our ambitions and improving our understanding of what progress really means. Rising seas and coastal storms are making our shorelines ever more dynamic and more important in contested terrain. These changes are challenging stewardship and restoration of our shorelines. So our focus at this year's conference is on the restoration of these areas and the adjoining shallow water habitat, highlighting the efforts of community leaders, restoration practitioners, and agency leaderships. And it's a particularly timely and urgent question. Restoring our urban shores can help us meet critical climate equity and restoration concerns. For example, many of the large-scale hazard mitigation projects that are being considered or planned will substantially change many of these shoreline areas. And the question is whether we can ensure that we're prepared for the changing climate and make habitat enhancement a real part of our resilience strategy. These same shoreline areas also provide opportunities for access to our waterways and to nature. And we're being asked, and rightfully so, to focus our attention on underserved communities in our region that do not have their fair share of that access. And of course, for our most urban of estuaries, the shorelines of our cities and towns are also a major restoration opportunity. And the question is whether scientists, restoration experts, and the regulatory community, and all of us in this room, really, because it's up to us, can come together around common objectives and best practices. It's also an urgent question because, as we all know, funding from the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, the Inflation Reduction Act, and other recent state and federal initiatives are presenting us with really a unique opportunity for our collective efforts. Billions of dollars will be put to work in our estuary on a variety of initiatives. And the question is whether we're going to make the best use of that money, whether we're really going to tackle climate change, whether we're going to be able to direct that money in the right way to the communities that need it most, and whether we're going to be able to work together on solving these common problems. So our conference today is really, or in this week, I should say, is intended to help set the stage for us to better access those funds and accelerate our progress towards our restoration goals. enabling us to ensure that the next 3 years of restoration progress puts us on the right path in terms of climate resiliency and community equity. We have panels and workshops on centering the community in restoration work and ensuring that all are welcome when we talk about habitat enhancement. We're particularly proud that we're going to be featuring the work of the next generation of restoration leaders, with more than 7 students presenting their research. We also have expert scientists and national and regional policy leaders discussing how we can move forward on living shorelines and the restoration of shallow water habitat, both critical to these needs. And we have a panel looking back on the past 20 years of restoration in the region, and an interactive discussion and closing keynote on our last day, Thursday, on how we can move forward together and meet this moment. But most of all, we have you, our restoration community, and all our partners. And we're excited to make space for people to create connections online and in person. We hope all of you can join us on our final day at Liberty Science Center on Thursday for both our panel discussion, our workshop, and our reception following the end of the conference. So with that, let me first of all thank the many people from HEP and Foundation staff and our partners on the Conference Planning Committee who have had their hand in getting us here. I guess if we were in person, I'd ask you all to stand up and take a bow. I don't think it's possible given the webinar technology, but you know who you are, and thank you. Really, we cannot pull off this conference every year without your help. In particular, I'm going to call out Isabel Stinnett, who's our conference organizer and takes the lead in corralling us all together and making sure this conference moves forward. And I'm going to turn it over to Isabel now to tell you how to take advantage of our week together.
Thanks, Rob. And sorry, everyone, for the technical difficulties. I think it was just me. But again, I want to echo Rob's welcome to the conference. We're really happy that you are all here. So I'm just going to quickly go over the Whova platform real quick, and then just go into the agenda a little bit more. So if you're hearing me now, you found your way to Whova, so that's a good step. Let me just share my screen real quick. Here we go. So this is our Whova platform, which you should be familiar with, or you might be familiar with. This is our landing page, and I'll take you first to the agenda, probably the most important thing. So for our agenda, we have 3 days of action, as Rob just mentioned. So make sure you scroll all the way to the left and right, and you can see all the different conference sessions. Our today and tomorrow are going to be all virtual, and Thursday there's one virtual session, and then the rest is going to be in person at Liberty State Park. So one thing you want to do is scroll down, take a look at the sessions, log on to one, and I'm going to go back and log on to one right here, and you want to check out this add to my agenda button. So this add to my agenda helps us figure out kind of who's coming to the session, and also what it does is it'll give you a calendar link that goes right to your work calendar, so you can make sure that you don't miss the sessions that you're particularly interested in. So feel free to scroll down. You can see everybody who's participating as speakers in the session and a little description of the session for each panel. So under that is speakers. You can see all of our lovely speakers with their beautiful faces, and read all their bios and where they went to college, all those fun things that you want to know. Next, over here on the left is attendees. This is where you can get the list of everyone who's attending our conference. We've got over 250 people as of this morning. So a lot of great people to connect with. You can message anyone in the conference, and be sure to also check down here your messages at this right here, see if anybody's messaging you. And then the final thing I want to point out on Whova is our community boards. So this is the way that you can really take advantage of the conference a little bit more and engage more fully. So a couple of things I want to point out is the organizers' announcements. Make sure you check those out periodically, because that's where we might communicate to you to any kind of things we want to highlight or any changes that need to happen. And And also this one right here that says ask organizers anything. If you have any questions you think everybody would benefit from knowing the answer to, feel free to just put it in this chat, and HEP staff will be monitoring this the whole conference through. So as for the rest of the community boards, you can feel free to create a topic. Anybody can create a topic, contribute to the topic. And if you're having a great discussion in a chat room, you can move it over to the community boards and continue the conversation. And this is also a great place to share resources. So you can post papers, events, job postings, all sorts of different ways you can use this. So feel free to take advantage. So now I'm going to switch and just go into the agenda real quick. I know Rob did touch on some of our highlights. So right now you're in our first session, conference welcome up here. We're going to hear from Lisa Garcia, our EPA regional administrator, and then some of our partners from the Passaic. Our session at 11, we try to have at least about a half hour in between our sessions, so you can answer your emails and go get your snacks. So, definitely look back, come back to Whova every half hour and check out the next session. Our 11 o'clock session has speakers from a wide range of angles talking about how we can involve our communities more in restoration. This is really a key panel for this conference. Our next session is our 1 p.m. is our kind of our VIPs of the restoration work group, looking at lessons learned from kind of the long-term results of restoration projects. And at 3 p.m., the session will target specifically the shorelines in urban areas and the latest ideas and what we can be doing with them. And this session was also in partnership with NYC Nature Goals. I'm going to move up to Tuesday real quick, or Wednesday, tomorrow. First up on Wednesday, we have a training from the Society of Ecological Restoration on the recovery wheel. This is basically how to assess if a restoration is working. If you're in the restoration world and you haven't seen this methodology, I suggest you check it out. It's really helpful and important. Our 11 a.m. session focuses on shallow water restoration projects. As Rob mentioned, there's been a lot of recent progress here, but panelists will be still discussing how do we scale up this. And at 1 p.m., we have the graduate student showcase. We have 7 students sharing a broad range of research about the estuary in their 5-minute dissertations. So we encourage you to be a part of that and hear this great new research happening in our estuary. And you can check out the descriptions in this session for more details about the particular presentation. And then on Wednesday, we close with our 3 p.m. session. That's the Just Language training. So I know a lot of folks in our area are keen to learn more about DEIJ initiatives and how they can be incorporated in ecological work. So this is a great session for that. And then moving on to Thursday. So on Thursday, we're going to start off with a Meet the Filmmaker session. This is a virtual session with Scott Morris, who created American River, which is the film that we're showing as part of this conference. And you'll hear a lot more about that in just a little bit. So there's a Q&A with him in the morning. And then we start our in-person in the afternoon. So we have an opportunity to join us early around 1:15 to come to the in-person session early and learn more about this huge restoration project taking place at Liberty State Park. We thought that it didn't make sense to go to Liberty State Park and not, try to highlight this great restoration project happening right there. So please join us early for the conference at 1:15 if you'd like more information and kind of a little tour about that restoration project. At 2 p.m., the in-person part of the conference truly starts, and we'll have a little bit of restoration and networking, and followed by a deeper dive into restoration project progress and the restoration report. And we'll then hear updates about HEP's environmental monitoring plan. And finally, we close out with our keynote panel, where our panelists, including the New Jersey DEP Commissioner, will dig into some of the larger questions raised at this conference. And at 5 p.m., we adjourn the conference for our happy hour. So we hope that you'll join us for informal conversation until our conference officially closes at 6 p.m. And then at 6 p.m., it wouldn't be a HEP conference without an after party. So we have an awesome after party this year. We're joining the After Dark at Liberty Science Center. So there'll be drinks and food and walking around the museum. And so we hope that it's not officially part of our conference, but we hope that you will join us and help us decompress at the end of the conference. So we stop sharing here. Again, thank you for joining us. We're really excited about the conference. We hope you are too. And I will kick it back over to Rob.
Well, thanks, Isabel. As you heard, we really do have a jam-packed week. And so I want to start us off now officially, really, with our keynote presenter this morning, Lisa Garcia from the US EPA. Lisa joined EPA with the Biden administration, but comes to her current position with a long experience both at EPA and in the region. She was, as regional administrator, she covers both New York, New Jersey, as well as Puerto Rico and the US Virgin Islands. She's an environmental lawyer who has advocated for environmental and climate justice for more than 20 years, representing both grassroots groups as well as working at all levels of government. And as I mentioned, her prior EPA experience came under the Obama administration, where she led EPA's environmental justice work and advanced a lot of the tools and strategies that EPA is putting to work today as they seek to implement the bipartisan infrastructure law and those other federal laws that I mentioned. So with that, let me turn it over to Lisa. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much. Can you hear me okay? See me okay?
Yep.
Yep, great. Good morning. Thank you so much again for the invitation to speak this morning. As mentioned, I'm the regional administrator, I am Lisa Garcia, regional administrator for EPA's Region 2. Region 2 covers New Jersey, New York, Puerto Rico, the US Virgin Islands, and 8 federally recognized Indian nations. So it's great to be here. I call this my home region. I grew up in New York and New Jersey, have family in Puerto Rico, so it's really great. It's an honor to really be able to work with everyone in this region. It's really great to be here today to speak to everyone and to thank the New York, New Jersey Harbor and Estuary Program, or HEP, as Rob said, for organizing and hosting this annual conference. It's great that for one day you'll be back together in person, but of course it's great for access that there is a virtual option. So I really appreciate that. And there's so many partners who have joined us today. I can't see everyone, but I do see my good friend Ana Baptista's here, which you'll be able to hear from later. And so, like I said, there's so many partners joining us today, representing state and local governments, community organizations, and obviously a variety of different other groups that do this incredible work. And through the partnerships like the HEP, like everyone contributing, we can really magnify all the positive impacts that we've already seen, and obviously, as Rob said, maybe even accelerating some of the work into the future. I just want to give a quick shout out. We're joined by many other employees or staff or partners from EPA. And I know many of you know my colleagues here at EPA, especially on the water team. So we're just really proud of the team, the work that they're doing, and all that Region 2 does to advance the impressive work with the New York, New Jersey HEP. Obviously, EPA can't do it alone. We need the help from everybody, the solutions to solving a lot of the pressing problems we have, the pressing environmental challenges in the 21st century require strong cooperation between community leaders, community groups, local and state government, private sector, everyone just working together to meet the challenges. And the HEP is uniquely suited to meet this moment because of its robust structure, containing the policy, scientific, and technical experience, and the public education and community outreach pieces, all of which are really critical to solving the problems. We know the challenges are enormous, but I really believe through the historical work that's been done by the HEP, by many of the partners here, and more recently over the next year or two, with the historical pieces of legislation spearheaded by the Biden-Harris administration, combined with President Biden's unprecedented commitment to environmental justice and to climate justice, we can really dig in and use this opportunity to do even more. So I'm just really happy to be here to celebrate the work and the accomplishments today of HEP. This year in particular is a fun year because we're celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Clean Water Act. And so it's great. I'm looking out at the East River, so it's great that rivers aren't catching fire anymore, which of course really helped Congress to act and to introduce the Clean Water Act. So those days are behind us, but we still have a lot of work to do. And we're embarking on these new chapters and this new effort and commitment in the story of our water work and our efforts that really ensure justice and equity are centered in everything that we do in this work, so that we can finally realize clean water, access to water for everybody, regardless of race, income, and geography. In its half-century history, the Clean Water Act has transformed the way we protect water. But as we know, it hasn't always been equitable. And as Rob was saying, really focusing this effort on restoration of our urban shores, especially in Region 2, really fixing and making sure that we're focusing on getting the lead out. So replacing lead service lines for drinking water, fixing and building out our sewage systems, and fixing our crumbling water infrastructure will be really an important piece of the next years of our work to ensure that we center ourselves around equity and building up all communities. And like I said, HEP and many of the people here today are part of that, that investment. So I'm going to go through a little bit of some of the bipartisan infrastructure law, some of the funding that's coming through from the federal government. I just want to make sure that folks understand that, once again, this is really centered around investment in the health and safety of everybody, and especially with a priority around communities that have borne a disproportionate environmental burden. So the public commitment that follows with the funding, the commitment of funding going to this, and obviously New York, New Jersey has made this commitment certainly in the last plan. I just want to mention on a personal note, it's really great to be able to talk today and open up this conversation around the theme, which is focused on community leadership in our efforts to restore urban shorelines. I have a little bit of a funny story, but it's going to be really important as you move through the conference and through the days to hear from community leaders and community organizations who are joining you throughout the conference to really dig in and think of ways we can be better partners and really listen to the ways that we are thinking about the restoration piece, incorporating, and I think Robbie said, centering community in the work that we're doing around climate justice and restoring our shoreways. So this is my one example of waterfront access and urban shorelines from Lisa Garcia, I'll just say. I grew up for part of the time in the Bronx. We actually lived in Venezuela and came back to to the Bronx every summer, so I can say I summered in the Bronx. Not many people can say that, but we went back to visit every year, and so my family used to get together, a Puerto Rican family. We would get together and in droves drive up to Connecticut to Candlewood Lake, I think it's called. Anyway, so we would travel really far to get to a beautiful lake and be able to swim. And we used to take the Bronx River Parkway. And so it's really interesting, fast forward when I start working with places like Youth Ministries for Peace and Justice, The Point in the Bronx, or the Bronx River Alliance, to find out there's a Bronx River. The Bronx River is not only a parkway, it's actually a river. And so now you have people going down in canoes. I think there's been governors and lieutenant governors who have canoed down the Bronx River. But this is why it's so important to think about restoring our shorelines or our waterways and making sure that the community who lives next to those waterways has access. So a little kid like Lisa doesn't grow up thinking the Bronx River is a parkway, and actually has access to the river. So it's really great to have this conversation. And I know we don't think that necessarily anymore, but it's true of so many kids growing up in the past. So I really encourage you to do this work. And of course, fast forward when I worked with the Ironbound Community Corporation and the New Jersey Environmental Justice Alliance, we worked on making sure that those huge shipping containers that were in front of the public housing on the Passaic River were moved so that people who lived and had windows weren't looking out at shipping containers. They now have a river view. Sorry, I just muted myself. Anyway, this is the important work that you're doing, and I really just want to appreciate it. So some updates quickly from the Biden-Harris administration, and why I'm so excited to join certainly at this time is I'll call it bill. It was a bill, it was signed, and still we call it a bill. The Bipartisan Infrastructure Law provides EPA with a groundbreaking once-in-a-generation infusion of $60 billion in overall funding. And $50 billion of that, $50 billion of that is specifically to improve water quality. So it's really an amazing opportunity. In the first bill investment, EPA awarded $169 million to New Jersey, and will finish awarding approximately $583 million to New York in early 2023. This is all to invest in clean water and drinking water infrastructure improvement projects. These are obviously historical investments and put some of our most successful partnerships that create living change conditions to our most vulnerable communities. The significant portion of this funding is specifically meant for communities that have traditionally not been able to benefit from the state revolving funds. And so there's guidance out from our Office of Water following Justice 40, which is an initiative that the Biden-Harris administration has put in place to make sure that 40% of the investments and benefits go to disadvantaged communities. So in the water projects with this bill funding, we want to make sure that more than 49%, I think is the guidance, goes to disadvantaged communities. And so this is really, like I said, a great opportunity. And one of the things that's new about this funding with the bill funding is that a lot of it can be given as forgivable loans. So some of the concerns in the past have been that it's either a loan or a matching grant. And so this is, a lot of this funding is as forgivable loans. And then of course, we know that the administration has figured out that the bill investments will create an estimated 750,000 jobs across the United States. So it's also a great investment in really bringing up kind of a generation of new jobs as we work on leveraging this money to build infrastructure. Obviously, speaking of leveraging, the HEP program leverages vital resources, funds, and expertise across a wide range of partner organizations, resulting in on-the-ground environmental improvements in the harbor and the estuary. So under the bill, also, EPA is providing each of the 28 national estuaries, including HEP, with $909,000 per year over the next 5 years. So using the first 2 years of funding from the bipartisan infrastructure law, $1.8 million to the New York, New Jersey Harbor and Estuary Program will launch 14 projects that will significantly advance progress on HEP's HEP's action agenda and meet the bill guidance requirements. HEP anticipates 80% of the total bill funding for these first 2 years will directly benefit disadvantaged communities, surpassing the goals of the Biden-Harris initiative called Justice 40, as I was mentioning. So it's 40%, but it seems like HEP is charging forward and making that about 80%. So congratulations on that. Some examples is HEP is providing $250,000 to advance combined sewer overflow long-term control plans, manage stormwater, address flooding, and improve water quality by supporting green infrastructure projects. HEP will provide capacity funding and technical assistance to the cities of Newark and Perth Amboy. The Newark DIG, which is doing infrastructure green, so Newark DIG partners, the Perth Amboy SWIM, which is stormwater infrastructure management partners, and others to support green infrastructure design plans, community engagement, and workforce training for the installation of the green infrastructure projects. As far as climate adaptation goes, HEP is providing over $400,000 to support community-based organizations seeking to advance resiliency, measures that address water quality and enable community engagement. HEP is also actively recruiting for a more diverse and representative group on their various committees. So I think Rob started out talking about all the different committees and thanking everyone and the work groups. So HEP will be developing an equity strategy detailing how it will contribute to the national program-wide goal of ensuring that at least 40% of the benefits and investments from bill funding flow to disadvantaged communities, as well as kind of a diversity and equity goal. The equity strategy will be submitted to EPA by June 1st of 2023. So we look forward to that. And obviously EPA will review and approve the strategy. And so I just want to say, thank you. I recognize the dedication and commitment to all this as we move forward, and HEP really incorporates these goals on equity. Also, just to mention, supporting community engagement in urban spaces. $150,000 will develop engineering assessments and support community engagement for continuous access to the Harlem River and the creation of a Harlem Greenway in the Bronx. So thank you for that, for making sure the kids of today get out to the rivers. I really appreciate it. And obviously all this is to support the restoration and conservation of habitat. $200,000 will support enhancement of one or more sites recognized in the Hudson-Raritan Estuary Comprehensive Restoration Plan. So I'm gonna skip through a few things, but obviously, CSOs, combined sewer overflows, is a big piece of this. I know that the New York, New Jersey Harbor Estuary is working on this. Obviously, many old cities that dot the shorelines have these combined sewer overflows, and so working with EPA closely and our partners will be working to address CSO issues and to develop the CSO long-term control plans. As far as environmental justice, I just wanted to mention, I know we're talking about what HEP is doing, but I just want to also talk a little bit about what EPA is doing. So we also are making sure that internally we're addressing environmental justice and tackling climate change. And one of the ways that we're doing this, besides the Justice 40, is the administrator Regan announced it on September 24th, the creation of a new EPA office called the Office of Environmental Justice and External Civil Rights. And the reason it's external civil rights is because there is an area of focus, which is to make sure that anyone who receives federal grants is complying with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act. And so the office, this new created national program, has the environmental justice work in it, and also the external civil rights piece to really proactively make sure that states and other recipients of federal funding are complying with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act. This is a senior level office that will guide the agency, obviously working with communities, working on the grants that we receive, and it's just going to be a really a great model to have a national program that focuses on environmental justice. And so one of the things that we did in Region 2 to follow up on this great announcement was to also announce that Region 2 is creating its own Office of Environmental Justice. So we're working on transitioning that piece, and it's a environmental justice unit here in Region 2. It sits in the regional administrator's office, and we're going to have about 10 staff on that team. And so look forward to not only this new office for EPA on the national level, but also in the region to help with community outreach and to really dig in and focus in on how we improve our environmental justice work across everything that EPA does. So one other piece that we wanted to mention as far as bill funding and how important it is, or the nexus between a few programs here at EPA, is our other priority area of work, which obviously is cleaning up contaminated sites, which helps to improve our waterways. So everyone here knows that there's a direct connection between our Superfund work and the water quality in our harbor and estuary. There's obviously huge Superfund sites in the region, like the Hudson River, cleaning up the PCBs, and we just announced the assessment of the lower Hudson River. There's also Newtown Creek in New York. I just took a boat tour last week with the community members there, really trying to clean up Newtown Creek, get that done. And of course, Diamond Alkali in Passaic River in New Jersey. All of these cleanups have direct influence on the health of the estuary. And I think most of you heard the important decision that we made in September was to add the lower Hackensack River to the Superfund National Priorities List. This decision is, my notes say, it's epic. So this decision is a pretty big decision. I know it took a long time, but it's great that we were able to list the lower Hackensack River to the MPL. Obviously, this comes after a tremendous amount of work to collect and assess information, probably a lot of input and comments from all of you. And this really allows us to take action, but it also means, that we'll have the resources and obviously much more work to come. So we'll be comprehensively studying the river, develop a cleanup plan, and carry out the cleanup. Through the Superfund program, EPA works together with communities by creating robust partnerships with the various levels of government. We work closely with New Jersey on the Hackensack River, obviously with community organizations. Certainly you see that when you go to Newark, to the waterfront walkway that's over by Newark now on the Passaic River. So it's really important, once again, coming back to the essence of centering community as you think of what the shoreline could be, what the community's needs are in developing this. And obviously the Superfund program can help really transform with that. So I'll just close out now. I don't know if people are having trouble hearing me. I saw chat, but just if you are, just let me know. But anyway, in closing out, I just want to loop back to this important piece of centering community as we think about climate resiliency, restoration of our urban shorelines. Obviously, we have a huge opportunity now, as I mentioned, with the bill funding and some of the other federal funding to be able to match the work that's going on, the partnerships with the states, especially in Region 2. We have great partners in New Jersey and New York. And so hopefully the next 50 years of the Clean Water Act will really be able to look back and say, we really delivered and put together some great work, centering communities, centering equity and environmental justice. So once again, thank you to HEP, thank you, Rob, thank you, everyone. HEP has really demonstrated its commitment to all this work, and I really look forward to continuing the work on centering equity and environmental justice. So, so let's take this journey together and collaborate and invest on the environmental and equity future that we all want to see. So thank you again for allowing me to open it up and speak. And I will turn it back over to Rob or Liz. I see Liz.
Yeah, I can take
Great,
it from here.
thanks.
Thank you so much, Lisa. It's always such a pleasure to have you join us, and we're super appreciative of all the work the Region 2 does for us and all of our partners. And we're definitely super excited about working with so many new partners thanks to this new infrastructure law. So thank you again. And people were loving your remarks on HUVA, so just wanted to share that as well. All right, so just moving on to some other exciting things. I just wanted to say a quick welcome and hello again to everyone who's joining us this morning to our Urban Shores Conference. My name is Liz Valladares. I'm the New York, New Jersey Harbor and Estuary Community Stewardship Manager, and I am also the ambassador for the Lower Passaic River with the Urban Waters Federal Partnership Program. As part of this year's conference, a lot of you already know this, but we are partnering with seasoned filmmaker Scott Morris for a very special viewing of his latest film called American River. And the exciting part is that we get to do this before the film is released to the general public in 2023. So we're very excited about this. If you haven't seen the emails yet, we encourage you to check it out. I know some of our other staff members have been on HUVA already sending links, so please check out the chat for more information about the movie. The documentary follows author Mary Bruno and river guide Carl Alderson on an exciting, informative 80-mile kayak journey from the Passaic River's pristine headwaters to its toxic mouth in Newark Bay. So it's a really exciting journey, and the fact that you can, enjoy it from the comfort of your screen, it's really exciting, and we hope you really take advantage of that. And I did just want to point out that the movie is available now up until December 1st at 9 p.m. And like I said, we'll add the link on the chat so you can grab a ticket if you haven't already. And again, you can watch this on your own time in your own comfort of your own home. And please let us know what you think. We definitely encourage everyone on HUVA to mention their thoughts about the films, what were their favorite parts, and what they enjoyed about it. And so this morning, we're lucky enough to sit with two very important Passaic River champions, Dr. Anna Baptista, who is the board trustee for the Ironbound Community Corps in Newark, and Michelle Langa, who's the joint staff attorney for Hackensack Riverkeeper and New York, New Jersey Baykeeper. They are also both co-chairs of the Passaic River Community Advisory Group, also known as the Passaic River CAG. And so I'm very excited that we get to sit down with them here and ask them just a couple of questions on why you should check out the film. So before jumping straight away into asking Anna and Michelle some questions and some thoughts on the film, I do just want to play the trailer real quick again so that I can share with you and give you an insight as to what you can expect from watching the film. So if you can just give me one quick second, I will be able to share that with you.
When we were kids, my mom would tell us, don't play by the river, but she didn't even have to tell us that because it was so obvious that this is not the kind of place that you're going to go wading in or swimming in or even dipping your hand in. It was that scary. But there came a time when I was compelled to find out what had happened to the river of my youth. If you wanted to write about a river and not kayak it, it would be like writing about a mountain and never climbing it.
Oh, wow.
When I kayaked the Upper River, I had no idea that that even existed. I had no way of even thinking about the Passaic as a pretty river. Rivers have amazing stories. They flow through space and they flow through time. And to write about a river, to travel a river, there's a new story around every bend.
I remember my grandparents telling me stories about swimming in the Passaic River. They would tell me how clean it used to be and how they used to picnic along it.
It's the river that really built New Jersey. It's the river that, in many ways, built the country.
The river is no longer the river it once was. It's a polluted waterway. Not just any polluted waterway, it is one of the major polluted waterways of the United States.
It's illegal to catch crabs in the whole lower 17-mile stretch of this river.
If you want to find the polluted areas, you can test the soil, you can test the air, so forth, or just check out the economic level of the people who live there.
We not only will fight for this, but we deserve this. This is a community that has been for too long separated and divorced from a connection to this river.
All right. Well, I'm going to ask both Anna and Michelle to come on screen. There we go. You see Michelle and there's Anna. Well, thank you so much. All right. That trailer is amazing. It like gives me chills. All right. So jumping into it. So you're both obviously very familiar with the history of the Passaic River and all the work that's been done and the work that's going to take to get the river back to its original state. But I'm wondering, you know, how does watching that story play out on screen made you both feel? And, you know, whoever wants to go first can take it from here.
Anna, you're in this film, so I think you should take the lead.
Honestly, it really touches me. I almost got a little choked up thinking about Sister Carol Donson, who was my mentor and worked at Ironbound Community Corps for many years. And she grew up along the river herself in Newark as a child and came back as a sister of charity. And she kept reminding me, Anna, this river is life. This river is what binds us to life. It reminds us of the life that teemed here and that will continue to come back here. And I thought she was crazy. I was like, you're nuts. Like, I grew up 3 blocks from this river, and I, like Mary Bruno, was taught to stay away from it, that it was dangerous, and really had never even seen it or touched the water as a child. But you know, through my work at Ironbound Community Corps and working with Sister Carol, I was really awakened to the beauty and the legacy and the history of this river, and really what we were robbed of. We were robbed of this beautiful treasure of a river. And so it was a gift to meet Sister Carol, and who brought me back to the river and reminded me of how much rivers really stitch our communities of life together. They stitch the communities that live along it together. You know, for I'm sure thousands of years, Native people lived off the sustenance that the river gave, and we slowly polluted it and turned our backs to it and forgot about it. And now I really believe it's our mission to bring us back, to stitch us back together with that life and return what was really should have never been taken away from us. So yeah, it's a very touching film to see, and honestly inspires me to, you know, that reminds me that this is an intergenerational a body of work. You don't return a river back to life in 1, 2, or even 10 years.
Yeah, thank you so much, Anne. I think you said it. you know, you hit the nail right on the head when it's about like stitching, right? Because for so long, like it's about like creating like this fabric of partnerships. And so I think like I couldn't find like a better word other than like stitching our communities together. Thank you so much. Michelle, do you also want to jump in and offer how it felt to kind of watch that story play out on screen?
Yeah, it is. I think it's a really strong reminder of we can see what this river once was, and if it was that once, it can be again. And like Anna said, this is a resource and a source of pride and enjoyment stolen from the communities around it, on the Lower Passaic especially. And I think that it really speaks to the hope that's still there for recovery, and the sort of dedicated community of people around it who are still fighting and will continue to fight long after we're gone, I hope, for the recovery of the river.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess on that note, when it comes to hope, is there anything that you both as co-chairs of the CAC can share, as in any major milestones that we've crossed since, you know, the making of the film? Have there been any major, you know, changes to the state of the Passaic, or the work that's, you know, to be implemented since the making of the film?
Yeah, there's a lot going on. Since the making of the film, actually, the upper part of the river, the upper part of the 17-mile stretch of the river, is now under an interim remedy review. So there's a possibility that we'll get not just the lower 8 miles of the river cleaned up, but simultaneously an upper 9 miles of the river cleaned up. The design of the cleanup is at 90% complete. So we're almost done with the completion of the design of the cleanup, which is a huge milestone. It gets us one step closer to the actual in-river dredging and cleaning process. Yeah, I don't know, Michelle, if there's other things that come to mind.
I think that we're finally sort of right around the corner from getting in river. I think the estimates are hopefully early 2023 or mid 2023 to physically be in water starting the work, which will be a huge milestone, I think, for the river and for the communities around it to see that happen.
Absolutely. For so long, we've been hearing like stories about it happening. Now it's finally happening. It's really
But when is it going to happen? It's almost there. We're almost there.
We're almost there. Yeah. Yeah, you couldn't have said it better. We're almost there. It's about like crossing that finish line, but we know that there is no finish line. Like, you know, there's so much work still to be done. So it's about staying consistent, you know. So we do want to keep this short. So just to leave the folks who are watching on Whova with sort of the biggest takeaway for why they should watch the film, right? If you could just share each what your biggest takeaway from the film is and how we can actually apply the lessons learned, right, that we get from this film to other parts of the region. What would that be? What's the biggest takeaway of the film, and how can we apply those lessons learned elsewhere?
I think my biggest takeaway is that, you know, there is still hope, and there is a real beauty in this river that you sometimes can't see unless you're on it. And so seeing this film gives you that opportunity to sort of change your perspective of what the river looks like, to see it from the water, and to really see the wildlife and just the vibrancy that's there that you may not see from a highway running along it, or from a window in an office building or an apartment. So that is something that I think is worthwhile, to kind of change that perspective and really get an idea of what else is out there and what's worth protecting.
Yeah. Thank you so much. You can't see their faces, but these folks right here on the canoe are actually on the Passaic. And if their faces were turned, you would see how wowed they are by also being on the water. So yes, I can definitely confirm that it's a different story when you're actually on it and you get to experience it from actually being on the water.
Yeah, I'll just echo that. I mean, I think if the film tells us anything, it's that we have to keep fighting, right? This river is not going to clean itself didn't get dirty on its own. And returning it to people means not just cleaning up the river, but restoring beautiful waterfronts, giving people access, reconnecting communities along the waterfront to their watershed and to their river resources and to that history, and also letting the next generation of people who grow up on this river in Newark, in Patterson, in Harrison, that they can one day imagine themselves and their children jumping in this water, swimming in it, feeding off of the fish here. And I think that that future is possible, but we have to keep fighting. We have to have, you know, the long haul fight in us to keep going.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Michelle and Anna. You know, like I said, you're both are just champions, not just in the region, but, you know, to communities everywhere who can take lessons from all the work that you're doing. So just thank you so much for your efforts and for joining us here today. Again, I encourage all of our partners who are watching us on Whova to check out the film. Again, it is available until December 1st at 9 p.m. So do not miss a chance to catch the special preview before the documentary is available to the general public next year. So with that, thank you so much, Anna and Michelle, once again, and I will leave things up to Rob, who's just going to share just some last minute announcements. Thanks, everyone.
Great. Well, thanks so much, Liz, and obviously Anna and Michelle for sharing your thoughts about it. I think it really, you know, I think that story of the Passaic is just so moving, and that and your comments just reflect so well what we're trying to do at HEP. You know, I think you guys making that real for us all this morning kind of sets us off on the right step forward. I also want to just say a big thank you to Lisa. Thanks so much for your partnership, and you and all your colleagues at EPA. And for recognizing the work we're trying to do with the bipartisan infrastructure law. Obviously, it's gonna be a big topic throughout the week, and something that we're hoping to do, you know, to accelerate the investment in this region through all of our federal initiatives. And thank you to all our folks, our attendees on Whova. I would love to be able to see your faces. I hope to be able to see you in person on Thursday. In the meanwhile, just a reminder to take advantage of everything that Whova offers. In particular, you know, any questions you have, put them in the Q&A section on Whova, as Isabel mentioned, or, you know, share a comment in the chat, you know, and we will get back to you one way or the other with any responses that are required. Our next panel is at 11 a.m. You know, this is on centering the community and restoration. We have a great panel of agency scientists and community representatives moderated by Ernest Tollerson. And so go grab a cup of coffee and stretch your legs, and we will see you back here at 11 a.m. Thanks so much.